He left his crying virgin bride alone in the rain. 5 years later, he begged for forgiveness, unaware she was married to a CEO. Hi, my beautiful family. Welcome back to Mr. Peter Stories. How are you, my beautiful family? God bless each and every one of you. Today, before we begin, I want to lift you all up in a special prayer from my heart to yours. A beautiful prayer for you, my family. Dear God, I come before you with a grateful heart, thanking you for every precious soul watching this. I ask you, Lord, to bless my beautiful family with good health, strengthen their bodies, comfort their minds, and restore them wherever they are weak. Bless the works of their hands. Let their dreams come true, and may doors of favor, opportunities, and success open for them. For those facing storms in life, be it emotional pain, financial struggles, or silent battles, please bring peace, breakthrough, and healing. Let love and light surround them. May their homes be filled with joy, and may every tear be replaced with laughter. Let your grace carry them through every season. Amen. From my heart. Sometimes I wonder, am I making you proud? Are you happy with the stories I bring you? I've noticed the likes are not coming the way they used to. Maybe I'm not meeting your expectations. And if that's the case, please forgive me. I truly want to bring you joy, inspiration, and warmth every single time. But guess what? I have amazing news for everyone, and I can't wait to share it with you in my next video. So please stay tuned. Now, let's start with love, because love is the reason we're all here. Mr. Peter loves you all so much. Shall we begin, my beautiful family? The rain pelted Angela Rivera's face, mixing with the tears streaming down her cheeks. The delicate lace of her wedding dress, purchased second-hand and lovingly altered by her grandmother's skilled hands, now clung to her trembling body like a heavy shroud. Her dark skin glistened with raindrops under the dim streetlights as she stumbled forward on the deserted road, one white heel broken, the other discarded somewhere behind her. "Why, William?" she whispered into the storm, her voice barely audible above the downpour. "Why today? Why like this?" Only an hour ago, she had been standing at the altar of the small chapel they'd managed to book with their meager savings, waiting for William Hatch to appear. The guests had shifted uncomfortably in their seats, whispers growing louder with each passing minute. Then came the note, hastily scrawled on hotel stationery, delivered by William's visibly uncomfortable best friend. "I can't do this. I'm sorry. Please forgive me someday." 8 words. 8 simple words that had shattered 3 years of love. And dreams. Angela had run from the chapel before anyone could stop her, ignoring her mother's cries and her bridesmaids' attempts to hold her back. She didn't want their pity or their comfort. She wanted only to escape the suffocating weight of humiliation and heartbreak. Now, miles from the chapel, with no destination in mind, Angela finally allowed herself to collapse onto a bus stop bench. Her body shook with sobs as the rain continued its relentless assault. The thin fabric of her veil plastered against her face, obscuring her vision, much like the future that now seemed blurry and uncertain. "Miss, are you all right?" The deep voice startled her. Angela hastily wiped her eyes, though it was a futile gesture with rain still falling. Through the veil, she could make out the silhouette of a tall man standing a few feet away, an umbrella held over his head. "I'm fine," she lied, her voice cracking. "Please, just leave me alone." Instead of retreating, the man stepped closer, extending the umbrella to shield her from the rain. "You don't look fine. You look like you could use some help." Angela lifted her veil to get a better look at him. He was handsome, strikingly so, with warm brown eyes that regarded her with genuine concern. His tailored suit suggested wealth, but there was nothing pretentious in his demeanor. "Unless you can mend a broken heart and restore my dignity, I don't think there's much you can do," Angela said bitterly. The stranger's expression softened. I'm Ben Stanfield. And while I can't promise miracles for broken hearts, I can at least offer you a dry place to wait out this storm and perhaps a warm drink." Angela hesitated. Every warning her mother had ever given her about strangers flashed through her mind. But there was something in Ben's eyes, a kindness and understanding that made her want to trust him. "My car is just around the corner," he continued. "The driver can take you wherever you need to go, no strings attached." A particularly fierce gust of wind sent a shiver through Angela's soaked body. What did she have to lose now? Her future husband had just abandoned her at the altar. Her life savings had been spent on a wedding that never happened. She was drenched, heartbroken, and had nowhere to go that wouldn't involve facing pitying looks and uncomfortable questions. "I'm Angela," she finally replied, standing on unsteady legs, "and I don't know where I need to go. I just know I can't. Go back." Ben nodded, understanding evident in his gaze. Sometimes forward is the only direction worth taking. He removed his suit jacket and gently placed it around her shoulders. The warm fabric enveloped her, carrying the subtle scent of expensive cologne. "Come, let's get you somewhere dry at least." As they walked to his car, Angela was acutely aware of how bizarre this situation was. A jilted bride accepting help from a wealthy stranger. Yet something told her this encounter wasn't random. Perhaps the universe, having just dealt her the cruelest blow, was now offering a small kindness in return. Ben's driver opened the door to a sleek black luxury sedan. Before stepping in, Angela cast one last look at the storm-darkened sky. Somewhere, in this city, William was probably already regretting his decision, or perhaps celebrating his escape. She would never know which, and for the first time she wondered if it even mattered anymore. "You're safe now," Ben said softly as the car door closed, sealing them into a quiet cocoon away from the storm. Angela's fingers clutched at the sodden lace of her wedding dress. "I don't think I know what that feels like anymore." "Then perhaps it's time you learned." Ben's voice was gentle but firm, as he instructed his driver to take them to his penthouse. "My sister keeps some clothes at my place. You can get dried off, collect your thoughts, and decide your next move without any pressure." The kindness of this gesture, so simple yet so profound, broke something loose inside Angela. Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks as the full weight of the day crashed over her. "I was supposed to be starting my life today," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Instead, I'm nothing. Nobody." Ben's hand moved toward hers but stopped, hovering cautiously in the space between them. "May I?" he asked, his eyes seeking permission. Angela nodded, and his warm fingers closed gently around her trembling hand. "You're not nothing, Angela. You're a woman strong enough to walk away from that chapel rather than collapse. That takes courage." She looked up at him through tear-blurred vision. "You don't know me. I'd like to, though," he replied, his voice impossibly gentle. "If you'd allow it." The car glided smoothly through rain-slicked streets as Angela's mind raced. William's betrayal had left a gaping wound in her heart, but the stranger's kindness was like a balm, unexpected and confusing, yet undeniably comforting. "Why are you helping me?" she finally asked. Ben looked out at the rain for a long moment before answering. 5 years ago, I was at my lowest point. Someone showed me kindness when I least expected it, when I thought I deserved it least. It changed everything for me." His eyes returned to hers. "Sometimes, Angela, the universe puts us exactly where we need to be, even when it feels like everything is falling apart." The car pulled up to an elegant building, and the driver quickly came around with an umbrella. As Ben helped her from the car, Angela caught her reflection in the glossy marble of the building's entrance. A bedraggled bride. Mascara streaked down her face, a broken tiara hanging lopsided in her once perfect updo. She almost laughed at the pathetic image she presented. "Come," Ben said, guiding her toward the private elevator. "No one will see you. You can take all the time you need." As the elevator ascended to the penthouse, Angela felt something shift inside her, a tiny spark reigniting amidst the ashes of her dreams. Whatever tomorrow brought, she had survived today. And perhaps, just perhaps, being left at the altar by William Hatch would eventually prove to be her salvation rather than her destruction. The doors opened to reveal a stunning penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing the stormy cityscape. Angela stood frozen, dripping rainwater onto the marble floor, overwhelmed by the luxury surrounding her and by the strange twist of fate that had led her here. "Let me show you where you can change," Ben said, leading her down a hallway. He opened a door to reveal a guest bedroom with an attached bathroom. "My sister Sophia stays here sometimes. There should be clothes in the closet that might fit you." Angela's fingers clutched the wet fabric of her wedding dress. "I don't know how to thank you." Ben's eyes were warm with understanding. "You don't need to thank me. Just take care of yourself tonight. Tomorrow is a new beginning." As the door closed softly behind him, Angela caught herself wondering what it might be like to be loved by someone like Ben Stanfield, someone who saw strength in her vulnerability, who offered help without expectation. She quickly pushed the thought away, ashamed of where her mind had wandered on what should have been her wedding night. But as she peeled off her ruined wedding dress and stepped into the warm shower, letting the water wash away the remnants of this disastrous day, Angela couldn't help but feel that perhaps, just perhaps, this ending might somehow lead to a new beginning she never could have imagined. Chapter 2. Healing Hearts. Angela awoke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows. For one blissful moment, she forgot everything. Then reality crashed back with crushing force. Yesterday should have been her wedding day. Instead, she'd been abandoned, left to face humiliation and heartbreak in front of everyone she loved. She sat up in the luxurious guest bed, running her fingers over the silky sheets. It hadn't been a dream. A kind stranger named Ben Stanfield had rescued her from the rain and brought her to his penthouse. A soft knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. "Yes," she called, her voice still rough with sleep and lingering tears. The door opened slightly, and Ben's voice came through the crack. "Good morning. I thought you might be hungry. I've prepared breakfast if you'd like to join me." Angela glanced down at the borrowed nightgown she'd found in the dresser. "I'll need a few minutes. Take all the time you need. There are clean clothes in the closet. My sister keeps quite a variety here." After Ben's footsteps faded, Angela explored the closet. She selected a simple sundress that seemed closest to her size and quickly dressed. In the bathroom mirror, she barely recognized herself. Her eyes were swollen from crying, her elaborate wedding hairstyle now a wild tangle of curls. She washed her face and attempted to tame her hair before stepping hesitantly into the hallway. Following the scent of coffee, she found her way to a stunning, open-concept kitchen where Ben stood by the stove, flipping pancakes. "You cook?" she asked, surprising herself with the question. Ben turned, a warm smile lighting his face. "One of my few actual talents. Everything else I just pay people to do for me." His self-deprecating humor made her smile despite herself. "I find that hard to believe," Angela replied, settling onto a stool at the kitchen island. "Believe it," he said, sliding a plate of pancakes toward her. "I had a very privileged upbringing, but an insistent grandmother who believed even rich boys should know how to feed themselves." As they ate, Angela found herself relaxing in Ben's presence. He asked no intrusive questions about yesterday, instead sharing stories about his travels and his work with various charitable foundations. "What about you?" he finally asked. "What does Angela Rivera love to do?" The question caught her off guard. For 3 years, her identity had been so wrapped up in being William's girlfriend, then fiancée. What did she love? Who was she without him? "I used to paint," she admitted. "Watercolors mostly, but I set it aside when..." "When?" Ben prompted gently. "When William said I needed to focus on more practical things." The words hung in the air between them. He thought art was a waste of time, unless you were selling in galleries. Something flashed in Ben's eyes, anger perhaps, but his voice remained gentle. "That's a shame. I'd love to see your work someday." After breakfast, Ben showed her to his home office. "You can use my phone to make any calls you need. I have meetings this afternoon, but please stay as long as you'd like." Alone in his office, Angela finally gathered the courage to call her mother. The conversation was tearful but healing. Her mother had been frantic with worry, but relieved to hear Angela was safe. They agreed Angela would come home tomorrow after she'd had more time to process everything. When Ben returned that evening, he found Angela curled up on his living room sofa, staring out at the city lights. "Thank you," she said, as he sat beside her. "For everything. You don't need to thank me." "I do, though. You've shown more kindness to a stranger than..." She swallowed hard. "Than the man who was supposed to love me showed after 3 years together." Ben's hand found hers in the dimness, his touch warm and reassuring. Sometimes people reveal their true character in moments of crisis. William showed his. "And you showed yours," Angela whispered. Their eyes met, something unspoken passing between them. For a brief moment, Angela felt a flutter in her chest that had nothing to do with sadness or pain. Embarrassed by her reaction, she quickly looked away. "I should go home tomorrow," she said. "Face reality." Ben nodded. "My driver can take you." "But Angela..." He hesitated. "I'd like to check on you in a few days, if that's all right, just to make sure you're doing okay." Angela should have said no. She was broken, damaged goods with trust issues that would take years to heal. But something in Ben's gentle gaze made her nod. "I'd like that." The weeks that followed were a blur of pain and healing. Angela moved back to her tiny apartment, returned to her job as a receptionist at a local clinic, and tried to piece her life back together. William had attempted to contact her multiple times, but she refused his calls and deleted his messages unread. True to his word, Ben checked in regularly. First with polite phone calls, then with invitations for coffee that gradually evolved into longer meetings. He never pushed for more than friendship, seeming to understand intuitively that Angela's heart was still too fragile for anything else. One rainy afternoon, 3 months after her non-wedding, Ben arrived at her apartment with a wrapped package. "What's this?" she asked, inviting him in. "Open it," he encouraged, his eyes bright with excitement. Angela carefully removed the wrapping paper to reveal a professional artist's set of watercolors, brushes, and paper, far more expensive than anything she'd ever owned. "Ben, I can't accept this," she breathed, even as her fingers caressed the brushes longingly. "You can and you will," he insisted. "Angela, when you talk about painting, your entire face lights up. Don't let William's dismissal rob you of something you love." Tears welled in her eyes, but for once they weren't tears of sadness. "Thank you." That night, after Ben left, Angela set up the watercolors on her small kitchen table. For hours, she painted, hesitantly at first, then with growing confidence. She painted the rain-soaked bride she had been, but transformed the scene, adding a rainbow breaking through the storm clouds above her. When Ben called the next day, she found herself describing the painting with such enthusiasm that she surprised herself. "I want to see it," he said warmly. "If you're willing to share." "It's not very good." "I don't care about good," Ben interrupted. "I care that you're reclaiming your passion." Something warm unfurled in Angela's chest at his words. For the first time since William had abandoned her, she felt something other than pain when thinking about the future. She felt possibility. Over the next months, Ben became a steady presence in Angela's life, never imposing, always supportive. He encouraged her art, listened when she needed to talk, and gave her space when she needed to process her feelings. 6 months after the wedding that wasn't, Ben invited Angela to the opening of a new wing at the Children's Hospital, a project his foundation had funded. She agreed without hesitation. That evening, dressed in a borrowed gown from Ben's sister, who had become a friend in her own right, Angela stood beside Ben as he cut the ribbon on the new pediatric center. "You're amazing," she whispered as they toured the facility afterward, watching his gentle interactions with the children. "All this, it's incredible what you've done." Ben's smile was humble. "I was born with money, Angela. The real question is what I do with it." Later, as his driver took them back to her apartment, a comfortable silence settled between them. Angela found herself studying Ben's profile in the dim light of the car. Over these months, he had become important to her in ways she couldn't fully articulate. "Would you like to come up for coffee?" she asked when they arrived, surprising herself with the invitation. Ben's eyes searched hers. "Are you sure?" She nodded, suddenly certain. "I'm sure." In her small apartment, as they sat together on her worn sofa, the air between them seemed charged with unspoken feelings. When Ben's hand gently covered hers, Angela felt her heartbeat quicken. "Angela," he said softly, "these past months, getting to know you, it's been the most unexpected gift." She looked down at their joined hands. "I was so broken when you found me." "No," Ben said firmly, lifting her chin with his finger so their eyes met. "You were hurt, but never broken. You're the strongest person I've ever met." The admiration in his eyes made Angela's breath catch. Slowly, giving her every chance to pull away, Ben leaned forward. Their lips met in a kiss so tender it brought tears to her eyes. Not the bitter tears of recent months, but tears of something new awakening inside her. When they separated, Angela rested her forehead against his. "I didn't think I could feel this way again," she whispered. "I was so afraid." "We'll take it slowly," Ben promised, stroking her cheek, "day by day." As he held her close, Angela realized that her broken heart hadn't just been healing all these months. It had been expanding, making room for a love far greater than anything she had known before. A love born not from desperate need or convenience, but from mutual respect and genuine caring. Outside, rain began to fall, gentle and nourishing, nothing like the torrential downpour of that fateful wedding day. Angela listened to its rhythm, matching it to the steady beating of Ben's heart beneath her ear, and for the first time in a very long time, she felt completely, utterly safe. Chapter 3. Blossoming Feelings. 2 years had passed since the rainy day when Angela's world had fallen apart and somehow, miraculously, begun to rebuild itself. 2 years of healing, of rediscovering herself, of growing closer to Ben Stanfield in ways she never could have imagined on that fateful day. Angela stood in front of her easel in the sunlit studio Ben had surprised her with on her birthday. 6 months ago, a cozy space with north-facing windows that bathed her canvases in perfect, steady light. Her paintings had evolved from tentative watercolors to bold, vibrant works that had actually begun to sell at local art shows. "You've outdone yourself," Ben's voice came from behind her, warm and appreciative. Angela turned, smiling at the man who had become the center of her world. "You're biased," she teased, but pleasure colored her voice. Ben moved closer, wrapping his arms around her waist and studying the painting over her shoulder. The canvas depicted a woman standing in the rain, face upturned, arms outstretched, embracing the storm rather than fleeing from it. "I'm biased because I know the extraordinary woman who created it," he murmured, pressing a kiss to the sensitive spot just below her ear. "And because I see how far you've come since that night." Angela leaned back against his solid chest, her eyes still on the painting. "Sometimes I think I should thank William," she admitted softly. "If he hadn't left me at the altar, I never would have found you. I never would have found myself." Ben turned her in his arms, his expression serious. "You would have found yourself eventually, Angela. You're too strong not to have broken free sooner or later." This was what she loved most about him, his unwavering belief in her, even when she doubted herself. Their relationship had developed slowly, deliberately over the past 2 years. First friendship, then cautious romance, and now this deep, abiding love that still took her breath away. "I have a surprise for you," Ben said, his eyes twinkling with excitement. Angela raised an eyebrow. "Another surprise? Ben, you've already given me so much." "This one's different." He took her paint-stained hands in his. "Pack a bag for the weekend, something nice for evenings, casual for days." "Where are we going?" "It's a surprise," he repeated, kissing her lightly. "I'll pick you up at 7. After Ben left, Angela found herself both excited and nervous. Though they'd been dating exclusively for over a year, she still sometimes felt overwhelmed by the differences in their worlds. Ben never made her feel less than because of her humble background, but she couldn't help noticing the subtle looks when they attended events together, the speculation, the whispers about the poor girl who'd caught the millionaire's eye. That evening, Ben arrived precisely at 7, dressed casually in jeans and a light sweater that accentuated his broad shoulders. His eyes widened appreciatively at the sight of Angela. She'd chosen a simple sundress that highlighted her slender figure, her natural hair falling in soft waves that framed her face, catching amber highlights in the early evening sun. "You're breathtaking," he said, taking her overnight bag. The car ride was filled with comfortable conversation as they left the city behind, heading toward the coast. Angela realized they were driving to the exclusive beachside community where Ben owned a vacation home, a stunning glass and cedar retreat perched on the cliffs above the ocean. "I thought we could use some time away from everything," Ben explained as they pulled up to the house. "Just us." The home was exactly as Angela remembered from their previous visits, spacious, elegant, with panoramic views of the ocean. But tonight, something was different. Candles flickered throughout the open living area, and the scent of her favorite, flowers, gardenias, filled the air. "Ben, what is all this?" she asked, turning to find him watching her with an intensity that made her heart skip. "2 years ago today, I found a beautiful woman in a wedding dress sitting alone in the rain," he said, moving toward her. "I didn't know then that finding you would change my life forever." Angela's eyes filled with tears. "You remembered the exact day." "I remember everything about you, Angela," he said softly. "The way your eyes light up when you're painting, the sound of your laugh, how you always order chocolate desserts but end up stealing bites of my fruit ones because you can't decide." He took her hands in his thumbs gently caressing her wrists where her pulse had begun to race. "Before I met you, I had everything money could buy, but I was just going through the motions of living. You taught me what it means to truly feel alive." His voice was husky with emotion. "To see beauty where others see only rain." Angela's heart hammered against her ribs as Ben led her out onto the terrace overlooking the moonlit ocean. The night air was cool against her heated skin, the rhythmic sound of waves breaking against the shore below, a perfect counterpoint to the blood rushing in her ears. "I wanted to bring you here, to my favorite place in the world, because I wanted to ask you something," Ben continued, turning to face her fully. The moonlight silvered his features, making him look almost otherworldly. "Ben," Angela whispered, hardly daring to hope what might be coming next. He reached into his pocket and withdrew a small velvet box. Angela's breath caught as he dropped to one knee before her, the open box revealing a stunning emerald-cut diamond, set in a band of smaller stones. "Angela Rivera, you walked into my life on what should have been the worst day of yours, and somehow you had the courage to trust me. Every day since then, you've shown me what real strength looks like." His voice trembled slightly. "I love you more than I thought it was possible to love anyone. Will you marry me?" For a moment, Angela couldn't speak. 2 years ago, another man had been meant to make her his wife. The pain of that rejection had nearly broken her. Yet now, looking down at Ben, this kind, generous man who had never once made her feel like she wasn't enough, she felt nothing but overwhelming joy. "Yes," she whispered, then louder. "Yes, Ben. I will marry you." The ring slid perfectly onto her finger as Ben rose to his feet, pulling her into his arms. His kiss was passionate, filled with promise and love so intense it made her dizzy. When they finally broke apart, they were both breathing heavily. "I want to do this right," Ben said, his forehead resting against hers. "Whatever kind of wedding you want, big, small, just us. It's your choice. I just want you to be my wife." Angela looked up at him, her eyes shining. "After what happened last time, I think something small, intimate, with just the people who truly love us." Ben nodded, understanding in his gaze. "Whatever you want, as long as at the end of it, you're Mrs. Stanfield." That night, as they made love in the master suite overlooking the ocean, Angela felt a completeness she'd never experienced before. Ben's touch was both reverent and passionate, as if he couldn't quite believe she was his. Each caress, each whispered endearment healed another part of her once broken heart. Afterward, as they lay tangled in the sheets, the moonlight casting silver paths across their intertwined bodies, Angela traced the strong lines of Ben's face with her fingertips. "I was so afraid to trust again," she admitted softly. "After William, I thought I'd never be able to give my heart to anyone." Ben caught her hand and pressed a kiss to her palm. "And now I know that what I felt for him wasn't real love. It couldn't have been." She smiled, her eyes never leaving his. "Because what I feel for you makes everything before seem like a pale shadow." Ben pulled her closer, his heartbeat strong and steady against her cheek. "We have our whole lives ahead of us, Angela, all the time in the world to love each other." Angela closed her eyes, savoring the security of his embrace. For so long, she'd defined herself by what she'd lost, the wedding that never happened, the man who hadn't loved her enough to stay. Now, in Ben's arms, she finally understood that sometimes losing everything was the only way to make room for something infinitely more precious. Outside, the waves continued their eternal dance with the shore, meeting, retreating, returning. Again, with unwavering constancy, just like the love that had blossomed between them, Angela thought sleepily. Constant, powerful, and utterly transformative. When she woke the next morning, the first thing she saw was the ring sparkling on her finger in the early sunlight. The second was Ben's face, watching her with such tenderness that her heart constricted. In her chest, "Good morning, future Mrs. Stanfield," he murmured, brushing a curl from her face. Angela leaned into his touch. "Say that again." Ben smiled, pulling her closer. "Mrs. Stanfield," he whispered against her lips. "I like the sound of that," she admitted, snuggling into his warmth. "So do I." His fingers trailed lazily down her spine, igniting sparks of sensation in their wake. "I've waited my whole life for you, Angela, even when I didn't know what I was waiting for." As his lips found hers again, more insistent this time, Angela surrendered to the passion that flared between them, hot, immediate, and all-consuming. Their bodies moved together with perfect synchronicity, as if they'd been created solely for this purpose, to love each other completely and without reservation. Later, as they sat on the terrace sharing breakfast and making plans for their future together, Angela found herself marveling at the journey that had brought her here. From abandoned bride to beloved fiancé in the span of 2 years. A transformation that seemed nothing short of miraculous. "What are you thinking about?" Ben asked, noticing her contemplative expression. Angela smiled, reaching across the table to take his hand. "Just that sometimes the worst day of your life can lead to the best thing that ever happened to you." Ben brought her hand to his lips, kissing the ring he'd placed there. "I intend to spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret saying yes to me." "I could never regret it," Angela promised, knowing in her heart it was true. With Ben, she had found not just love, but partnership, respect, and the freedom to be completely herself. The ocean stretched before them, endless and full of possibility, much like the life they were now committed to building together. For the first time since that rainy wedding day 2 years ago, Angela felt truly, completely whole. Chapter 4. New Beginnings. Angela and Ben exchanged their marriage vows in a ceremony that differed dramatically from the one Angela had planned with William 3 years earlier. Where that had been an elaborate affair constrained by budget limitations, this celebration embraced intimacy and perfection, held in the gardens of Ben's coastal home, with only 40 guests attending. Angela examined her reflection in the full-length mirror of the master suite, barely recognizing the woman who gazed back. She wore a masterpiece of ivory silk and delicate lace that hugged her curves before flowing gracefully to the floor. Tiny white flowers adorned her dark curls, and her grandmother's pearl pendant hung around her neck, the only item she'd kept from her previous wedding plans. "You look absolutely breathtaking," said Sophia, Ben's sister, who had become one of Angela's closest friends over the past 2 years. Angela smoothed her hands over the silk of her dress, her heart fluttering with anticipation rather than the anxiety she'd felt on her first wedding day. "I can't believe this is really happening," she whispered. "Believe it," Sophia squeezed her hands. "My brother has been walking on air since you agreed to marry him. I've never seen him so happy." A soft knock at the door interrupted them. "It's time, sweetheart," called Angela's mother, her voice thick with emotion. As Angela made her way downstairs and through the house to the garden, memories of her previous wedding day flashed through her mind. The panic, the humiliation, the heartbreak. But today, those memories had lost their power to hurt her. They were merely stepping stones that had led her to this moment, to the man who waited for her beneath an arch of white roses with the ocean as a backdrop. The moment Ben turned and saw her walking toward him on her father's arm, his eyes filled with tears. The raw emotion on his face, love, awe, gratitude, made Angela's own eyes well up. This was what real love looked like, she realized. Not desperate clinging or hollow. Promises, but profound respect and unwavering devotion. Their vows were simple but heartfelt. When Ben spoke of finding her in the rain that day, of knowing somehow that their lives were meant to intertwine, Angela felt the last remnants of her past pain dissolve completely. "With this ring," Ben said, sliding the wedding band onto her finger to join her engagement ring. I promise to love you through sunshine and rain, through calm seas and stormy waters, for all the days of my life. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Ben's kiss was both tender and passionate, a perfect reflection of the man himself. The small gathering of guests erupted in applause, but Angela barely heard them. In that moment, there was only Ben, her husband, looking at her as if she were the most precious thing in the world. The reception that followed was a joyous celebration filled with laughter, dancing, and heartfelt toasts. As twilight descended, fairy lights twinkled throughout the garden, creating a magical atmosphere. Ben led Angela onto the dance floor for their first dance as husband and wife, holding her close as they swayed to the soft music. "Happy, Mrs. Stanfield," he murmured against her ear. "Beyond words," she replied, tilting her face up to his. "I never thought I could feel this way, Ben. Like my heart might burst from so much happiness." His arms tightened around her. "This is just the beginning, love. We have a lifetime of happiness ahead of us." Later that night, after the last guests had departed and they were finally alone, Ben swept Angela into his arms and carried her over the threshold of the master suite. The room had been transformed, rose petals scattered across the bed, candles flickering on every surface, champagne chilling in a silver bucket. "When did you arrange all this?" Angela asked, amazed. Ben set her gently on her feet, his eyes never leaving hers. "I have my ways," he said mysteriously, pouring 2 glasses of champagne. "To us," he toasted, handing her a flute, "and to new beginnings." "To us," Angela echoed, taking a sip before setting her glass aside. "Ben, Whatever she had been about to say was lost, as Ben's lips claimed hers in a kiss that stole her breath and ignited a fire in her blood. For all their passion over the past 2 years, there was something different tonight, a new intensity, a sense of permanence that hadn't existed before. Ben's fingers trembled slightly as he helped her out of her wedding gown, his reverent touch leaving trails of heat on her bare skin. "You're so beautiful," he whispered, his voice rough with desire. "My wife, my Angela." The way he said, "my wife," sent shivers of pleasure down Angela's spine. She reached for him eagerly, helping him shed his tuxedo until they stood before each other completely bare, physically and emotionally. In Ben's gaze, Angela saw not just desire, but profound love, a connection that transcended the physical. Their lovemaking that night was both tender and urgent, a celebration of their union and a promise of all the nights yet to come. Ben worshipped her body with his hands and mouth, drawing sighs and moans from her lips until she cried out his name, shuddering in his arms. When they finally came together, Angela felt tears slip from beneath her closed eyelids, tears of joy, of completion, of absolute belonging. Afterward, as they lay tangled in the sheets, Angela's head resting on Ben's chest, she traced lazy patterns on his skin. "I wish we could stay like this forever," she murmured. Ben's fingers stroked through her curls. "We have 2 weeks of honeymoon ahead of us. That's almost forever." Angela propped herself up on one elbow to look at him. "Where are we going?" "You? You still haven't told me." Ben's smile was mysterious. "It's a surprise, but I promise you'll love it." True to his word, Angela was enchanted when their private jet landed on a small island in the Caribbean the following afternoon. Their honeymoon villa was a secluded paradise with its own stretch of pristine beach, infinity pool, and staff who appeared when needed but were otherwise invisible. "This is incredible," Angela breathed as they stood on the terrace overlooking the turquoise sea. "I've never seen anything so beautiful." Ben wrapped his arms around her from behind, resting, his chin on her shoulder. "Nothing compares to you," he murmured, his lips finding the sensitive spot behind her ear. The 2 weeks that followed were a blissful blur of lazy mornings in bed, afternoons exploring the island or swimming in the crystalline waters, and nights
Smeler Buffon and Degunsia Adan Stumby Mikes Niaka Orig Radena Idvesa Aha Paete had Benna.
Even her imperfections. One evening, as they walked hand in hand along the moonlit beach, Ben stopped suddenly and turned to face her. "I've been thinking," he said, his expression serious, "about what you said last week, about wanting to help other women who've been through traumatic experiences." Angela nodded, remembering their conversation about her desire to do more with her art, perhaps using it as therapy for others. "I want to establish a foundation in your name," Ben continued, his eyes bright with enthusiasm. "The Angela Stanfield Foundation for Women's Empowerment, a place where women can find support, develop their creative talents, maybe even get small business loans to start over." Angela stared at him, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what he was suggesting. "Ben, that would cost millions." He smiled, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Money well spent if it means other women can find their strength the way you found yours." Tears filled Angela's eyes as she threw her arms around his neck. "How did I get so lucky?" she whispered against his skin. Ben held her tightly, his heartbeat strong and steady against her cheek. "I'm the lucky one, Angela. You've made my life complete in ways I never imagined possible." Later that night, as Angela lay awake watching Ben sleep, she marveled at how completely her life had transformed. 3 years ago, she had been left standing at the altar, believing herself unlovable and unwanted. Now she was married to a man who cherished her, who saw her potential even when she couldn't see it herself, who wanted to use his considerable resources to help her make a difference in the world. She touched his face gently, tracing the strong line of his jaw, the curve of his lips. Ben stirred, his eyes opening to find hers in the dim light. "Can't sleep," he murmured, pulling her closer. "Just thinking about how far I've come," she admitted. "How much I've changed." Ben's eyes were serious as he studied her face. "You haven't changed, Angela. You've just become more fully yourself, the person you were always meant to be." His words resonated deep within her soul. He was right. The pain of William's rejection had nearly destroyed her, but it had also stripped away the pretenses and compromises she'd made to please him. With Ben, she had discovered her authentic self, the woman she was always meant to be. "I love you," she whispered, pressing her lips to his, "more than I ever thought possible." Ben's response was immediate and passionate, his hands sliding beneath the silk nightgown she wore, his touch igniting fires across her skin. Their bodies moved together with practiced familiarity, yet with an urgency that felt new, as if they couldn't get enough of each other despite the countless times they'd made love over the past 2 weeks. Angela arched beneath him, gasping his name as waves of pleasure washed over her. Ben followed moments later, his face buried in her neck, his breathing ragged against her heated skin. "I'll never get enough of you," he confessed when he could speak again. "Even 50 years from now, I'll still want you just like this." Angela's heart swelled at the image his words conjured, the two of them, growing old together, their passion mellowing but never fading. It was everything she'd ever wanted, but had feared was beyond her reach. 50 years, she repeated, smiling against his shoulder. "That sounds like a perfect beginning." As they drifted back to sleep in each other's arms, Angela felt completely, utterly at peace. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever storms might come, she knew with absolute certainty that she and Ben would weather them together. The rain that had once symbolized her greatest heartbreak had led her to her greatest love, a love that would sustain her for all the days of her life. Chapter 5. The Unexpected Return. 6 months into their marriage, Angela and Ben had settled into a rhythm of domestic bliss that sometimes felt too perfect to be real. Their newly renovated penthouse apartment, a wedding gift from Ben to Angela, had become a sanctuary of warmth and love, with one entire floor converted into an art studio where Angela's talent continued to flourish. That morning, Angela stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of her studio, early sunlight streaming over her latest collection of paintings, scenes from their honeymoon that captured the vibrant colors and emotions of those perfect 2 weeks. Her first gallery showing was scheduled for the following month, and though anxiety occasionally gripped her, Ben's unwavering support kept her grounded. "There you are," Ben's voice came from the doorway, warm and sleep-rough. He wore only pajama bottoms, his chest bare, and his dark hair tousled from sleep. Even after all this time, the sight of him made Angela's heart race. "Couldn't sleep," she admitted, accepting his embrace as he wrapped his arms around her from behind. "Pre-show jitters." Ben pressed a kiss to her neck. "Your work is magnificent. The gallery owner said you're the most exciting new artist she's seen in years." Angela leaned back against him, drawing strength from his solid presence. "I still can't believe any of this is happening. Sometimes I wake up expecting to find myself back in my old apartment, struggling to make rent." "Never again," Ben murmured, turning her in his arms. His kiss was tender, but held the promise of deeper passion. "You deserve every bit of happiness, Angela." Later, as they shared breakfast on their terrace overlooking the city, Ben's phone buzzed with an incoming call. His brow furrowed as he checked the screen. "I need to take this," he apologized, stepping inside. Angela sipped her coffee, contentedly watching the city come to life below. Her thoughts drifted to the Angela Rivera Foundation, which had officially launched 2 months ago. Already they'd provided grants to 10 women starting their own businesses, women who, like her, had faced devastating setbacks but refused to be defined by them. When Ben returned, his expression was troubled. "What's wrong?" Angela asked immediately. "That was Jackson," he said, referring to the head of security for his various properties. "There's been an incident at the gallery space." Angela's stomach tightened. "What kind of incident?" "Someone tried to break in last night. They didn't get past the security system, but—" He hesitated. "They left something for you. A letter." "For me?" Angela set down her coffee cup with trembling hands. "Who would—" "It's from William." Saturday's name hung in the air between them like an unwelcome ghost. Angela hadn't heard from or about William Hatch in nearly 3 years. After her countless rejected calls and deleted messages in those first few months, he had finally stopped trying to contact her. "What does he want?" Her voice sounded distant, even to her own ears. Ben's jaw tightened. "To see you. Apparently, he's moved back to the city and heard about your upcoming show. The letter says he needs to explain, to make things right." After all this time, Angela stood, walking to the edge of the terrace. The peaceful morning now felt tainted. Why now? Ben moved to stand beside her, his presence reassuring. "You don't have to see him. You don't owe him anything." Angela turned to look at her husband, seeing the concern in his eyes, and something else, a flicker of unease. "You're worried," she realized. Ben took her hands in his. "Not about us. Never about us." His thumbs stroked her knuckles. "But William hurt you deeply once. I don't want him to have the opportunity to cause you any more pain." Angela's heart swelled with love for this man who was always so protective of her emotional well-being. "Where is the letter now?" "Jackson has it at the security office. I asked him not to bring it here until I'd spoken with you." Angela considered her options. Part of her wanted to have the letter destroyed unread, to maintain the perfect life she'd built without allowing William's ghost to intrude. But another part, the stronger, more confident woman she'd become, knew she needed to face this final demon. I want to read it, she decided. Whatever he has to say, I can handle it. I'm not the broken girl he left in the rain anymore. Ben's smile was proud but tinged with concern. I know you're not. You're the strongest person I've ever known. He kissed her forehead. I'll have Jackson bring it over. The letter, when it arrived, was surprisingly brief. Written on expensive stationery, William's familiar handwriting brought an unexpected flood of memories. Angela. I know I have no right to ask anything of you after what I did. The way I left you was unforgivable, and I've carried the weight of that decision every day since. I've moved back to the city to take a position at my father's firm, and when I saw the announcement about your upcoming show, I couldn't believe my eyes. You've become the artist you always wanted to be. I'm not writing to disrupt your life or to try to win you back. From what I've heard, you're married now. I hope he makes you happier than I ever could. All I ask is a chance to apologize, face to face, to explain why I did what I did. Not for my sake, but because I believe you deserve to know the truth. If you're willing, I'll be at Café Luna on Thursday at 2 p.m. If you don't come, I'll understand, and I promise I won't try to contact you again. William. Angela read the letter twice before setting it down on the coffee table. Ben, who had been watching her intently, moved to sit beside her on the sofa. Are you okay? He asked gently. Yes, she said, surprised to find it was true. It's strange. 3 years ago, these words would have meant everything to me. Now they're just words. Ben's arm came around her shoulders. Will you meet him? Angela hesitated. I don't know. Part of me wants to know why he did it. Why he waited until I was standing at the altar before deciding he couldn't go through with our marriage. She looked at Ben. Would it bother you if I did meet him? This isn't about me, Ben said carefully. It's about what you need for closure. That's not an answer, Angela pressed. I would never do anything to hurt you or our marriage. Ben took her face between his hands, his gaze intense. Angela, I trust you completely. If meeting William will give you peace, then do it. Our love is strong enough to withstand the ghost of your past. His complete confidence in their bond moved her deeply. I think I need to do this, she admitted, to finally close that chapter completely. Then I support you, Ben said simply. Do you want me to come with you? Angela shook her head. No. This is something I need to do alone. Thursday arrived with unsettling symmetry, a light rain falling from grey skies, much like the day William had abandoned her. Angela dressed carefully in a deep blue wrap dress that accentuated her curves. Her hair swept up in an elegant style that showcased the graceful line of her neck. This wasn't vanity, it was armor. She wanted William to see exactly what he had thrown away. Ben kissed her goodbye at the door of their penthouse. Call me if you need me, he said. I can be there in 10 minutes. I'll be fine, Angela assured him, touching his cheek tenderly. This is just closure. Café Luna was a trendy spot in the arts district, not far from the gallery where Angela's show would open. As her driver pulled up to the curb, she took a deep breath to steady her nerves. This meeting wouldn't change anything about her present happiness, she reminded herself. It was simply tying up a loose end from her past. This moment she stepped into the cafe, she saw him. William Hatch sat at a corner table, looking much the same as he had 3 years ago. Handsome in a conventional way, his blonde hair neatly styled, his suit expensive but conservative. When he spotted her, his eyes widened slightly, and he stood, nearly knocking over his water glass in his haste. "Angela," he breathed as she approached the table. "You came." "I did," she confirmed, taking the seat across from him. Up close, she could see subtle changes in him. Fine lines around his eyes, a certain weariness in his expression that hadn't been there before. "You look incredible," William said, his gaze moving over her with undisguised admiration. "Success suits you." Angela didn't acknowledge the compliment. "Your letter said you wanted to explain. I'm listening." William seemed taken aback by her directness, as if he'd expected or hoped for a warmer reception. "Right, of course." He took a sip of water, his hand trembling slightly. "First, I want to say how deeply sorry I am for what I did to you. It was cowardly and cruel, and you deserved so much better." "Yes, I did," Angela agreed calmly. William flinched at her bluntness. "I was in a terrible place, mentally, Angela. For months before the wedding, I'd been having panic attacks, doubts, not about you, but about myself, about whether I could be the husband you deserved. And you decided the answer was no, at the very last minute." "I convinced myself I was doing you a favor," William admitted, his expression pained. "That you'd be better off without me and my issues. It wasn't until weeks later that I realized what a terrible mistake I'd made." "You tried to call," Angela acknowledged, "many times. You never answered. Would you have, in my position?" William's shoulders slumped. "No, I wouldn't have." He leaned forward, his eyes pleading. "But Angela, not a day has gone by that I haven't regretted walking away from you. You were the best thing that ever happened to me, and I threw it all away because I was scared." Angela studied the man across from her. This person she had once thought she would spend her life with. There was genuine regret in his eyes, but something else too. Something that made her uneasy. "William, why are you really here? After all, this time—" He hesitated, then reached across the table as if to take her hand. Angela subtly shifted back, keeping her hands in her lap. William registered the rejection with a flicker of hurt. "When I saw the announcement for your show with your picture, I knew I had to see you again," he said, his voice low and intense. "I've never stopped loving you, Angela, never. And when I found out you had married Ben Stanfield," his expression darkened, "I have to know. Are you truly happy? Does he love you the way you deserve to be loved?" The question was so presumptuous, so entitled, that Angela nearly laughed. "You lost the right to ask me about my happiness the moment you left me standing alone at the altar," she said evenly. "I know," William said quickly. "I know that. But Angela, people make mistakes. Terrible, unforgivable mistakes. Sometimes out of fear, sometimes out of confusion. I've spent 3 years trying to become a better man, the kind of man who would deserve a second chance with you." And there it was. The real reason for this meeting. Angela felt a strange sense of calm settle over her. "You want me back?" "I never stopped wanting you," William confessed, his eyes burning with an intensity that once would have thrilled her. "Every woman I've met since you has been a pale shadow. You're the one, Angela. You always were." "And my husband?" Angela asked, deliberately raising her left hand where her wedding and engagement rings caught the light. "Did you consider him at all in this scenario?" William's jaw tightened. "I've heard things about Stanfield, about his relationships before you. They never lasted. He has a pattern of becoming obsessed with a woman, showering her with gifts and attention, then moving on when he gets bored." "That's not true," Angela said firmly, anger rising in her chest. "You don't know anything about Ben or our relationship." "Don't I?" William pressed. "Think about it, Angela. How you met. You were vulnerable, devastated. He swooped in like some knight in shining armor. It's a savior complex, plain and simple. Once you're fully back on your feet, completely independent, how long before he loses interest? Angela stood abruptly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. This meeting is over. William rose quickly, regret flashing across his face. Angela, wait. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. Please, sit back down. No. Her voice was steel. You didn't ask to see me to apologize, William. You came here to try to poison my marriage because you suddenly decided you want what you threw away. It's pathetic. She turned to leave, but William's hand caught her wrist, stopping her. I made a terrible mistake, Angela. One moment of weakness. That cost me everything. Don't you believe people deserve second chances? Angela looked pointedly at his hand until he released her. Some people do, but not you. Not with me. She softened her voice slightly, not out of tenderness, but out of pity. What we had wasn't real, William. If it had been, you never could have left me the way you did. It was real, he insisted. I was just too stupid and scared to appreciate it. But seeing you now, successful, confident, more beautiful than ever, I know I was right about one thing. You're the woman I want to spend my life with. Angela shook her head, a sad smile touching her lips. Goodbye, William. I wish you well, but please don't contact me again. As she walked out of the cafe into the light rain, Angela felt an enormous weight lift from her shoulders. For 3 years, a tiny part of her had wondered why William had left, what she could have done differently. Now she knew the truth. The problem had never been her. It had been his weakness, his fear. She paused under an awning, collecting herself before signaling for a taxi. She'd handled this on her own terms, and the sense of empowerment that gave her was profound. William's attempt to manipulate her had failed. She didn't need Ben to defend her, though his steadfast support had given her the courage to face this meeting in the first place. As her taxi arrived, she sent a quick text to Ben. Coming home to you now. I love you more than ever. His response was immediate. I'll be waiting. Always. What Angela didn't see as her car pulled away from the curb was William watching from the cafe window, his expression hardening into resolve. In his mind, he hadn't lost her, not yet. Angela Rivera had always been his, and somehow he would make her remember that. Ben Stanfield had simply been keeping her safe until William was ready to reclaim what was rightfully his. Chapter 6. Emotional turmoil. Angela returned home from her meeting with William, determined to put the encounter behind her. The rain had intensified during her drive back to the penthouse, matching her turbulent emotions. Walking through the door, she found Ben waiting for her, concern evident in his eyes. How did it go? He asked, taking her damp coat. Angela stepped into his embrace, drawing comfort from his familiar warmth. Not well, she admitted. He didn't want to apologize. He wanted me back. Ben's body tensed against hers, but his voice remained calm. I can't say I'm surprised. Angela pulled back to look at him. You knew? I suspected, Ben said, leading her to the sofa. A man doesn't suddenly reappear after 3 years just to make amends. Not unless he wants something. He said horrible. Things about you, Angela said, anger flaring again at the memory. Implied that you only helped me because of some savior complex, that you'd get bored with me once I was completely independent. A muscle twitched in Ben's jaw. And what did you tell him? That he doesn't know anything about our relationship. That I love you, and that what he and I had wasn't real. She took Ben's hand, lacing their fingers together. If it had been, he never could have left me the way he did. Relief softened Ben's expression. I'm sorry you had to deal with that. Love. Don't be. It was clarifying in a way. Angela leaned into his side. For years, I wondered what I did wrong, why I wasn't enough. Now I know it was never about me at all." Ben pressed a kiss to her temple. "You've always been more than enough. William was just too blind to see it." That night, as they made love, with an intensity born of renewed appreciation for their bond, Angela pushed all thoughts of William from her mind. This was her life now, passionate, fulfilling, secure. Nothing and no one could threaten that. The week leading up to Angela's gallery opening was a whirlwind of activity. Final selections were made, frames adjusted, lighting perfected. Ben remained her rock throughout, handling logistics so she could focus on the creative aspects. Yet despite her excitement, Angela couldn't shake a feeling of unease. Twice, she thought she spotted William watching her from across the street when she left the gallery, but when she looked more carefully, no one was there. "Am I being paranoid?" she asked Sophia over lunch 3 days before the opening. "I keep feeling like I'm being watched." Sophia's expression grew serious. "Have you told Ben?" "No," Angela admitted. "He's already concerned about William's reappearance. I don't want to worry him over what might be nothing." "Angela," Sophia said firmly, "my brother needs to know. William clearly hasn't accepted your rejection." Reluctantly, Angela agreed. That evening she confessed her concerns to Ben. His reaction was immediate. "I'm increasing security at the gallery opening," he said, reaching for his phone, "and I want you to have a driver take you everywhere until we're sure he's not following you." "Isn't that overreacting?" Angela asked, though part of her was relieved at Ben's protective response. "Not when it comes to your safety and peace of mind." Ben's eyes softened as he pulled her close. "You are my whole world, Angela. I won't take chances with your well-being." Night of the gallery opening arrived with perfect weather, clear skies and a gentle breeze, a welcome change from the rain that had plagued the city all week. Angela stood before the mirror in their bedroom, admiring the emerald green gown Ben had surprised her with, a color that made her dark skin glow and complemented the collection she was showcasing. "You look breathtaking," Ben said, appearing behind her in his tuxedo. His eyes devoured her reflection. "The most beautiful artist in the city." Angela turned, smoothing her hands over his lapels. "Thank you for everything, the dress, your support, believing in me before I believed in myself." "Always," he promised, lowering his head for a kiss that left her breathless and made her briefly consider skipping her own opening. The gallery was already buzzing with people when they arrived. Collectors, critics, friends and family all gathered to celebrate Angela's talent. Her mother wept openly with pride, and even her usually stoic father seemed emotional as he viewed the collection. "They're extraordinary, sweetheart," he said, embracing her. "You found your calling." Angela floated through the evening in a haze of joy and disbelief. Critics praised her use of color and emotion. Collectors haggled over pieces. The gallery owner whispered that nearly everything would sell before the night was over. It was a triumph beyond her wildest dreams. Ben remained close, but not hovering, allowing her to shine while making sure her champagne glass stayed full and introducing her to important contacts. His pride in her accomplishments was evident in every glance, every touch, every introduction. It was during a rare moment alone, when Ben had stepped away to speak with an important museum curator, that Angela felt a presence beside her. Turning, she found herself face to face with William. "What are you doing here?" she hissed, glancing around for security. "You weren't invited." "I bought a ticket," William said smoothly, looking devastatingly handsome in his tailored suit. "It's a public exhibition, Angela. I wanted to support your success." After our last conversation, you should know you're the last person I want here. Angela started to move away, but William caught her elbow. Your work is magnificent, he said, his voice low and intimate. You always had this talent, this vision. I was too self-absorbed to appreciate it then, but I see it clearly now. Despite herself, Angela felt a flicker of the old longing for his approval, a weakness she immediately despised. Let go of me, William. One drink, he pleaded. Just give me 5 minutes to apologize properly for what I said at the cafe, please. Everything okay here? Ben's voice, cool and controlled, cut through the tension. He materialized at Angela's side, his hand coming to rest protectively at the small of her back. Ben, Angela said, relief evident in her voice. William was just leaving. William's eyes narrowed as he looked between them. Actually, I was hoping to buy Angela a congratulatory drink, as an old friend. Old friends don't stalk people after being told to stay away, Ben said pleasantly, though steel underlay his words. He turned to Angela. The Times critic wants to speak with you, love. He's absolutely raving about the Sunset series. Grateful for the excuse, Angela nodded. I should go talk to him. She looked directly at William. Goodbye, William. Please don't approach me again. As she walked away on Ben's arm, she could feel William's eyes boring into her back. The joy of the evening had been tainted, her triumph diminished by his unwelcome presence. I'm sorry, Ben murmured as they crossed the gallery. Security should never have let him in. It's not your fault, Angela assured him, though her heart was racing. He bought a ticket like anyone else. Ben's jaw was tight. He's obsessed with you, Angela. Men like that don't give up easily. He stopped, turning to face her fully. Would you consider postponing your solo sessions at the gallery this week, just until we can be sure he's moved on? Angela wanted to protest, to insist she could handle William, but the genuine concern in Ben's eyes stopped her. All right, she agreed, just for a week or so. Ben's relief was palpable. Thank you. I couldn't bear it if anything happened to you. The remainder of the evening passed without further incident, though Angela caught glimpses of William circling the periphery, watching her. By the time they left, most of her pieces had sold, a spectacular success by any measure, but the victory felt hollow, overshadowed by the anxiety William's presence had provoked. In the car heading home, Ben held her hand tightly. Don't let him diminish your achievement, he said, seeming to read her thoughts. Tonight was extraordinary, Angela. You were extraordinary. Angela rested her head on his shoulder. I just wish he would go away, leave us in peace. He will, Ben promised, though something in his tone made Angela glance up. There was a hardness in his expression she rarely saw, a glimpse of the ruthless businessman beneath the loving husband. That night, their lovemaking had an edge of desperation, as if both needed to physically reaffirm their connection after William's intrusion. Ben's passion was all-consuming, his hands and mouth reclaiming every inch of her body until Angela cried out his name, shuddering in ecstasy. Afterward, as they lay tangled in the sheets, Angela traced the strong line of Ben's jaw. I love you, she whispered. Only you. Always you. Ben captured her hand, pressing a kiss to her palm. I know, he said softly, but I'm human enough to be glad to hear it. In that moment, Angela realized something important. William's reappearance had affected Ben more deeply than he'd admitted. Beneath his confident exterior lay a vulnerability she rarely glimpsed, a fear of losing her that matched her own terror of losing him. He can't come between us, she promised, pressing her body closer to Ben's. Nothing can. Ben's arms tightened. Around her. I want to believe that. Then believe it, Angela insisted, rising up to look into his eyes. What we have is real, Ben. What I had with William was a fantasy that collapsed at the first real test. You and I have weathered storms together. We're stronger for them. As Ben pulled her down for another kiss, Angela felt his tension begin to dissolve. Yet as she drifted towards sleep in his embrace, a troubling thought surfaced. For all their love and commitment, William's return had shown her how quickly security could turn to uncertainty, how easily outside forces could threaten even the strongest bonds. And somewhere in the city, William Hatch was planning his next move. Of that, she was certain. Pride in her accomplishments was evident in every glance, every touch, every introduction. It was during a rare moment alone, when Ben had stepped away to speak with an important museum curator, that Angela felt a presence beside her. Turning, she found herself face to face with William. "What are you doing here?" she hissed, glancing around for security. "You weren't invited." "I bought a ticket," William said smoothly, looking devastatingly handsome in his tailored suit. "It's a public exhibition, Angela. I wanted to support your success. After our last conversation, you should know you're the last person I want here." Angela started to move away, but William caught her elbow. "Your work is magnificent," he said, his voice low and intimate. "You always had this talent, this vision. I was too self-absorbed to appreciate it then, but I see it clearly now." Despite herself, Angela felt a flicker of the old longing for his approval, a weakness she immediately despised. "Let go of me, William." "One drink," he pleaded. "Just give me 5 minutes to apologize properly for what I said at the cafe, please." "Everything okay here?" Ben's voice, cool and controlled, cut through the tension. He materialized at Angela's side, his hand coming to rest protectively at the small of her back. "Ben," Angela said, relief evident in her voice. William was just leaving. William's eyes narrowed as he looked between them. "Actually, I was hoping to buy Angela a congratulatory drink, as an old friend." "Old friends don't stalk people after being told to stay away," Ben said pleasantly, though steel underlay his words. He turned to Angela. "The Times critic wants to speak with you, love. He's absolutely raving about the Sunset series." Grateful for the excuse, Angela nodded. "I should go talk to him." She looked directly at William. "Goodbye, William. Please don't approach me again." As she walked away on Ben's arm, she could feel William's eyes boring into her back. The joy of the evening had been tainted, her triumph diminished by his unwelcome presence. "I'm sorry," Ben murmured as they crossed the gallery. "Security should never have let him in." "It's not your fault," Angela assured him, though her heart was racing. "He bought a ticket like anyone else." Ben's jaw was tight. "He's obsessed with you, Angela. Men like that don't give up easily." He stopped, turning to face her fully. "Would you consider postponing your solo sessions at the gallery this week, just until we can be sure he's moved on?" Angela wanted to protest, to insist she could handle William, but the genuine concern in Ben's eyes stopped her. "All right," she agreed, "just for a week or so." Ben's relief was palpable. "Thank you. I couldn't bear it if anything happened to you." The remainder of the evening passed without further incident, though Angela caught glimpses of William circling the periphery, watching her. By the time they left, most of her pieces had sold, a spectacular success by any measure, but the victory felt hollow, overshadowed by the anxiety William's presence had provoked. In the car heading home, Ben held her hand tightly. "Don't let him diminish your achievement," he said, seeming to read her thoughts. "Tonight was extraordinary, Angela. You were extraordinary." Angela rested her head on his shoulder. I just wish he would go away. Leave us in peace. He will, Ben promised, though something in his tone made Angela glance up. There was a hardness in his expression she rarely saw, a glimpse of the ruthless businessman beneath the loving husband. That night, their lovemaking had an edge of desperation, as if both needed to physically reaffirm their connection after William's intrusion. Ben's passion was all-consuming, his hands and mouth reclaiming every inch of her body until Angela cried out his name, shuddering in ecstasy. Afterward, as they lay tangled in the sheets, Angela traced the strong line of Ben's jaw. I love you, she whispered. Only you. Always you. Ben captured her hand, pressing a kiss to her palm. I know, he said softly, but I'm human enough to be glad to hear it. In that moment, Angela realized something important. William's reappearance had affected Ben more deeply than he'd admitted. Beneath his confident exterior lay a vulnerability she rarely glimpsed, a fear of losing her that matched her own terror of losing him. He can't come between us, she promised, pressing her body closer to Ben's. Nothing can. Ben's arms tightened around her. I want to believe that. Then believe it, Angela insisted, rising up to look into his eyes. What we have is real, Ben. What I had with William was a fantasy that collapsed at the first real test. You and I have weathered storms together. We're stronger for them. As Ben pulled her down for another kiss, Angela felt his tension begin to dissolve. Yet as she drifted toward sleep in his embrace, a troubling thought surfaced. For all their love and commitment, William's return had shown her how quickly security could turn to uncertainty, how easily outside forces could threaten even the strongest bonds. And somewhere in the city, William Hatch was planning his next move. Of that, she was certain. Chapter 7. Confronting the Past. The resounding success of Angela's gallery opening should have been the beginning of a joyous new chapter in her life. Instead, the following weeks were tinged with unease. William's presence lingered like a shadow over her happiness, manifesting in unexpected phone calls that she refused to answer and bouquets delivered to her studio that she immediately discarded. This has to stop, Angela said one evening as Ben's security team reported another incident. William had attempted to gain entry to a charity event where Angela was scheduled to speak. He's becoming more aggressive, not less. Ben's expression was grim as he dismissed the security team. I've spoken with my lawyers. We can file for a restraining order, but we need to document a clear pattern of harassment, which means letting this continue, Angela concluded, frustration evident in her voice, letting him disrupt our lives even more. Just for a little. While longer, Ben assured her, gathering her into his arms, will build an ironclad case he can't wiggle out of. Angela rested her head against Ben's chest, drawing strength from the steady beat of his heart. I hate that he's doing this, that he's making me afraid in my own city. He won't win, Ben promised, his voice hardening. I won't let him. Though Ben had increased security and made sure Angela was never alone outside their home, the constant vigilance was taking its toll on both of them. Dark circles shadowed Ben's eyes as he juggled his business responsibilities with his determination to protect her. Angela found herself struggling to focus on her art, jumping at unexpected sounds, checking over her shoulder as paranoia set in. The breaking point came when Sophia called Angela in tears. William approached me after my yoga class, she explained, her voice shaking. He said he just wanted to talk about you, to understand what happened after he left. He seemed so sincere, Angela. I told him how devastated you were, how Ben helped you recover. You had no way of knowing how obsessed he's become, Angela reassured her, though her stomach churned with dread. What else did he ask about? Your relationship with Ben, your schedule, when you're alone at the studio. Sophia's voice broke. I'm so sorry, Angela. I thought he was just trying to understand what he'd lost. I had no idea he was gathering information. After hanging up, Angela paced the penthouse, anger gradually replacing her fear. This had gone far enough. William wasn't just disrupting her life. He was manipulating her friends, invading every aspect of her world. Something had to give. The decision crystallized in her mind with sudden clarity. She would confront William directly, on her terms, in a public place where he couldn't make a scene, end this madness once and for all. When Ben returned home that evening, she presented her plan. Absolutely not, he said immediately, his expression thunderous. It's too dangerous, Angela. He's unstable, which is exactly why this needs to end, she countered. We can't live like this indefinitely, Ben, looking over our shoulders, jumping at shadows. I need to face him, to make him understand there is no chance. Not now, not ever. They argued until their voices grew hoarse, their first real fight since marrying. Ben insisted on her safety above all else. Angela maintained her right to confront her own demons. Finally, exhausted, they reached a compromise. Angela would meet William at a popular restaurant during lunch hour, with Ben's security team positioned nearby and Ben himself at a separate table within sight. I don't like this, Ben said as they lay in bed that night, his body tense beside hers. Angela turned to face him in the darkness. I know, but it's necessary. She traced the worried lines of his face. I need to reclaim my power, Ben. As long as I'm hiding, he wins. Ben pulled her closer, burying his face in her hair. Just promise me you'll be careful. William isn't the man you once knew. Neither am I the woman he once knew, Angela reminded him softly. I'm stronger now, wiser. The restaurant Angela selected for the confrontation was one of the city's most popular lunch spots, always crowded, always noisy, with tables close enough together that any raised voice would immediately draw attention. She arrived early, choosing a table with clear sightlines to both exits. Ben's security team had already positioned themselves strategically throughout the space, and Ben himself sat at the bar, pretending to review documents while keeping her in his peripheral vision. William arrived precisely at noon, impeccably, dressed as always. His face lit up when he spotted her, as if this were a romantic rendezvous rather than the final end to his delusions. Angela, he said warmly, leaning in as if to kiss her cheek. She turned her face away, gesturing for him to sit. This isn't a social call, William. I asked you here to tell you in no uncertain terms that you need to stop. The calls, the flowers, approaching my friends, all of it ends today. William's smile faltered. I was beginning to think you'd never agree to see me again. He reached for her hand across the table, but she pulled back before he could touch her. I've missed you so much, Angela. Did you hear anything I just said? Angela's voice was controlled but firm. I'm happily married, whatever we had ended years ago, by your choice. A mistake I regret every day, William said, his eyes never leaving hers, one I'm trying to rectify if you just give me a chance. There is no chance, Angela stated flatly. I love my husband. I've built a life I'm proud of. You're not a part of that life, William. You need to accept that and move on. Something dark flickered across William's handsome features. You don't mean that. Not really. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. I've seen the way you look at me, Angela. There's still something there, something real, something that cold-blooded businessman can never understand. Angela stiffened, anger flaring. The only thing I feel when I look at you is pity and growing disgust at your behavior. He's changed you, William insisted, a hint of desperation entering his voice. The Angela I knew would never speak to me this way. She was warm, compassionate. The Angela you knew was trying desperately to be whatever you wanted, she interrupted, bending herself into shapes that weren't natural, suppressing her dreams because you found them impractical, accepting less than she deserved because she didn't know her own worth. William recoiled slightly, genuine surprise crossing his face. That's not true. I supported you. You tolerated me, Angela corrected, years of suppressed resentment finally finding voice. As long as my ambitions didn't inconvenience you or challenge your sense of superiority, Ben loves me exactly as I am. Ambitious, creative, sometimes difficult. He celebrates my successes instead of feeling threatened by them. Angela, please. William's voice softened, taking on the cajoling tone that had once been so effective at making her doubt herself. We had something special. You know we did. Whatever Stanfield has given you, the fancy apartment, the gallery connections, it's all just things. Material things that can't compare to real love. Angela couldn't help the laugh that escaped her. You still don't get it, do you? Ben didn't buy my love with things. He earned it by supporting me, believing in me when I didn't believe in myself, standing by me through every step of rebuilding the life you shattered. She leaned forward, meeting his gaze directly. What we had wasn't real love, William. If it had been, you never could have left me standing alone in a wedding dress, humiliated in front of everyone I cared about. William's expression hardened. Is that what this is about? Revenge? Making me pay for one terrible mistake? No. This is about me telling you, clearly and finally, to leave me alone. Angela's voice was steady, her resolve unshakable. Stop calling. Stop sending flowers. Stop showing up where I'm going to be. Stop talking to my friends. Stop trying to interfere in my marriage. And if I don't? A dangerous edge had entered William's voice. Then the restraining order my husband's lawyers are preparing will become necessary. Angela stood, gathering her purse. This is goodbye, William, for good this time. As she turned to leave, William's hand shot out, gripping her wrist with bruising force. You don't get to walk away from me, he hissed, his handsome face contorted with anger. Not again. Let go of me, Angela said loudly, drawing attention from nearby tables. You're hurting me. Everything okay here? A waiter approached, concern evident in his expression. Before William could respond, Ben was there, his presence commanding and unmistakably threatening as he placed a steady hand on William's shoulder. Remove your hand from my wife, Ben said, his voice deceptively calm. Now. Something in Ben's tone, or perhaps the barely contained fury in his eyes, caused William to release Angela immediately. He stood, straightening his jacket with forced casualness. We were just finishing our conversation, William said, attempting to salvage his dignity. Nothing to worry about. We're done here, Angela confirmed, moving to Ben's side. The protectiveness in his stance, the way he subtly positioned himself between her and William, filled her with a profound gratitude. William's gaze flicked between them, calculation replacing anger. For a brief moment his mask slipped, and Angela caught a glimpse of something unexpected in his eyes, not just obsession or entitlement, but genuine pain. She suddenly realized that in his own twisted way, William might truly believe he loved her. That knowledge didn't excuse his behavior, but it made him more human, more complex than the monster she'd made him out to be. For now, he said softly, before turning and walking away. The restaurant had grown unnaturally quiet, dozens of eyes watching the drama unfold. As William disappeared through the door, conversation gradually resumed, though curious glances still came their way. Are you all right? Ben asked, gently examining her wrist where red marks were already forming. I'm fine, Angela assured. him, though her heart raced with belated fear. The glimpse of violence in William had shaken her more than she wanted to admit. "Let's go home." In the car, Angela finally allowed herself to tremble, the confrontation's adrenaline leaving her. System in a rush that left her exhausted. Ben held her close, his warmth a shield against the chill that had settled in her bones. "I'm so sorry," he murmured against her hair. "I should have intervened sooner." "No," Angela said firmly, looking up at him. "I needed to handle this myself, to say my piece, and now I have." A strange calm had settled over her despite the ugly scene. He knows the truth now, all of it. And that will stop him? Ben didn't sound convinced. Angela sighed, leaning into his embrace. "I hope so. But if not, at least I've faced him. I've said everything I needed to say." That night, as Ben slept, beside her, Angela replayed the confrontation in her mind. Something William had said bothered her, not his claims about Ben or his profession of undying love, but his parting words. For now, the phrase held a promise, or perhaps a threat, that unsettled her deeply. For the first time since William's reappearance, Angela allowed herself to consider a troubling possibility. What if he never gave up? What if this obsession continued to shadow their lives, their happiness, their future? The thought sent a chill through her that had nothing to do with the cool night air. Chapter 8. Testing. True love. 3 weeks passed without any sign of William. The restraining order had been granted after Angela showed the judge the bruises on her wrist and security footage from the restaurant. Life slowly returned to normal. Angela threw herself into her next collection, while Ben focused on a major new development project that had been neglected during the William crisis. "I think he's finally gotten the message," Angela said one morning as they shared breakfast on their terrace. The summer air was warm, the sky a perfect blue that matched her mood. "It's been almost a month with no contact." Ben's smile didn't quite reach his eyes. "I hope you're right." "But you don't think so," Angela observed, reaching for his hand, across the table. "William isn't the type to admit defeat," Ben said carefully. "Men like him, men with wounded pride, can be dangerously unpredictable." Angela sighed, unwilling to let William's ghost continue to haunt their happiness. "We can't live waiting for the other shoe to drop. At some point we have to reclaim our peace of mind." Ben brought her hand to his lips. "You're right, as always. I just want you safe." "I am safe," she assured him. "With you." Later that day, Angela received a call from the director of a prestigious art institute, inviting her to give a guest lecture about her creative process. The opportunity was too exciting to pass up, despite Ben's lingering concerns about her public appearances. "This is important for my career," she explained as they discussed it over dinner. "I can't keep hiding forever." Ben's expression softened, with understanding. "I know, and I won't ask you to. Just promise me you'll keep the security team with you." "Promise," Angela agreed, relieved at his support. "They can blend in with the audience." The lecture was scheduled for the following week, giving Angela time to prepare a presentation that combined her personal journey with technical insights about her painting style. She worked tirelessly, practicing until her delivery was polished, yet still authentically her. The night before the lecture, Ben had to attend a business dinner he couldn't reschedule. "I'll be home by 11, he promised, kissing her goodbye. "Try to get some sleep so you're fresh for tomorrow." "I will," Angela assured him, though nervous energy thrummed through her veins at the thought of speaking before so many people. After Ben left, she found herself too restless to sleep. Deciding a glass of wine might help her relax, she headed for the kitchen, only to be startled by a sound at the front door, the electronic lock disengaging. Relief flooded her as she realized Ben must have wrapped up his dinner early. "That was quick," she called, moving toward the entryway with a smile. "Did you miss me that much?" The smile died on her lips as the door swung open to reveal not Ben, but William. Fear spiked through her as she instinctively backed away. "How did you get in here?" she demanded, reaching for her phone on the nearby console table. William closed the door behind him with deliberate slowness. "Your husband's sister is very trusting," he said, holding up a keycard. "She really should be more careful about where she leaves her purse when she's at the gym." Angela's fingers closed around her phone. "You're violating the restraining order. Leave now or I'm calling the police." William took a step toward her, his expression unnervingly calm. "I just want to talk, Angela, to make you understand what you're throwing away." His eyes moved around the luxurious apartment with undisguised contempt. "All this, it's not really you. The Angela I knew was simpler, more authentic." "The Angela you knew was too insecure to stand up for herself," she retorted, her finger hovering over the emergency call button. "Get out, William. I mean it." "I've tried to be patient," he continued, as if she hadn't spoken, taking another step closer, "to give you time to see through Stanfield's manipulation. But you're blind to what he's doing, isolating you, making you dependent on him, turning you against the people who truly care about you." Angela let out a disbelieving laugh. "The only person trying to manipulate me is you. Ben loves me. He supports my independence, my career, my dreams." "Does he?" William's voice was soft, dangerous. "Then why does he insist on controlling your every move? The security team, the restraining order, all designed to keep you in his gilded cage." "Those measures are to protect me from you," Angela said, her anger overcoming her fear. "You're trespassing in my home. Leave, now." William's handsome face twisted with sudden rage. "This isn't your home. This is Stanfield's showpiece and—" "You're just another possession he's acquired." He gestured wildly around the apartment. "Look at this place, Angela. Everything designed to remind you of your place in his world. Beautiful, expensive, and ultimately replaceable." The accusation was so absurd that Angela momentarily forgot her fear. "You don't know anything about my marriage or my life with Ben." "I know more than you think," William said, his voice dropping to a confidential tone. "Did you know your precious husband has had private investigators looking into my business dealings, that he's tried to pressure my firm's clients to drop us, that he's systematically working to destroy my career just because I dared to love the woman he stole from me?" Angela's resolve wavered for the first time. "What are you talking about?" Sensing her uncertainty, William pressed on. "Ask him about Meridian Properties, about the calls he made to their board of directors the day after our meeting at the restaurant, about the contracts they suddenly cancelled with my firm." "Even if that's true," Angela said, though a seed of doubt had been planted, "he was protecting me." "He was eliminating competition," William corrected, his voice silky with conviction. "Ben Stanfield doesn't love you, Angela. He possesses you, and anything he can't possess, he destroys." The sound of the electronic lock interrupted whatever Angela might have said in response. William's head snapped toward the door, panic briefly crossing his features before he collected himself. "Think about what I've said," he urged quickly. "Look beyond the perfect husband facade. Ask him directly about Meridian, about the other women before you, about what really happened to make them leave." Before Angela could respond, the door opened to reveal Ben, his expression instantly transforming from tired to murderous as he registered William's presence. "Get away from my wife," he growled, crossing the space in 3 long strides to position himself protectively in front of Angela. William raised his hands in a gesture of surrender, though his smile remained smug. "No need for dramatics, Stanfield. We were just having a civilized conversation." In our home? After breaking in? Ben's voice shook with barely controlled rage. I'm calling the police. I was just leaving, William said smoothly, his eyes finding Angela's over Ben's shoulder. Remember what I said, Angela. Ask the questions. Demand the truth. With that parting shot, he turned and walked out, closing the door behind him with infuriating casualness. Ben immediately turned to Angela, his hands gentle as they cupped her face. Are you all right? Did he hurt you? I'm fine, she assured him, though her heart raced with residual fear and confusion. He has Sophia's keycard. He must have stolen it from her bag at the gym. Ben's expression darkened further. I'll have the locks reprogrammed immediately, and I'm calling the police. This is a clear violation of the restraining order. As Ben made the call, Angela sank onto the sofa, William's accusations echoing in her mind. She didn't believe him, couldn't believe him, and yet... Ben, she said when he finished speaking with the police. What's Meridian Properties? Ben froze momentarily, then turned to face her with careful neutrality. A development company. Why? Did you contact their board after my meeting with William, try to get them to cancel contracts with his firm? The silence that followed confirmed William's claim before Ben even spoke. I did, he admitted, sitting beside her. William's firm was handling legal work for their downtown project. I suggested they might want to reconsider that arrangement. Angela stared at him, shock and disappointment warring within her. You tried to destroy his career? I tried to protect you, Ben countered, taking her hands in his. William had just physically assaulted you in a restaurant. He was becoming increasingly unstable. I needed him to understand there would be consequences for threatening you. By threatening his livelihood? Angela pulled her hands away. That's not protection, Ben. That's vengeance. Ben's expression hardened. Call it what you want. I will use every resource, every connection I have to keep you safe. If that means making William Hatch unemployable in this city, so be it. The ruthlessness in his voice startled Angela. This was a side of Ben she rarely saw, the calculating businessman who had built his empire through strategic maneuvering and occasional ruthlessness. She had always known it existed, but facing it directly was unsettling. What else? She asked quietly. What else did William say? Ben's jaw tightened. Whatever he told you, it was designed to create exactly this. Doubt between us. Don't. Let him succeed, Angela. I need to know, Ben, about the women before me, why those relationships ended. The words felt like a betrayal even as they left her lips, but William's insinuations had taken root, and she couldn't unhear them. Pain flashed across Ben's features. You're actually questioning me based on William's lies? The man who abandoned you at the altar and is now obsessively stalking you. I'm asking my husband to be honest with me, Angela corrected, forcing herself to meet his gaze. If there's nothing to hide, why not just answer? Ben stood abruptly, running a hand through his hair in frustration. Fine, you want honesty? Yes, I've had relationships before you, 3 serious ones. None ended because I got bored or whatever garbage William fed you. Then why did they end? Angela pressed. Different reasons, Ben said tersely. Rachel wanted children I wasn't ready for. Gabriella took a job in Paris and didn't want a long-distance relationship. And Madeline... He hesitated. Madeline? Angela prompted. Ben's expression darkened. Madeline was with me for my money. When I discovered she was feeding information about my business deals to a competitor, a man she was also sleeping with, I ended it. The police arrived before Angela could respond, taking statements about William's break-in and violation of the restraining order. By the time they left, promising to locate and arrest William, a strained silence had settled between Angela and Ben. I'll sleep in the guest room tonight, Ben said quietly. the hurt in his eyes making Angela's heart constrict. "You should rest before your lecture tomorrow." "Ben," Angela began, but he cut her off with a raised hand. "We're both tired and upset," he said, his voice carefully controlled. "Whatever William hoped to accomplish by coming here tonight, let's not give him the satisfaction of driving a wedge between us." As the bedroom door closed behind him, Angela remained on the sofa, tears sliding silently down her cheeks. The foundation of trust she'd built with Ben felt suddenly shaky beneath her feet, not because she believed William's insinuations, but because she'd allowed them to make her doubt, even momentarily, the man who had never given her reason to question his love. Sleep eluded her that night as she replayed the confrontation with William, the hurt in Ben's eyes, the dangerous game William was playing with their happiness. Tossing and turning until dawn broke, Angela realized she needed to take decisive action before William could do any more damage to her marriage. Game William was playing. By dawn, Angela had reached a decision. William's manipulations had nearly worked, had almost made her doubt the one person who had never given her reason to question his devotion. It stopped now. The lecture was scheduled for 10 o'clock. At 6, Angela slipped from the penthouse, leaving Ben sleeping in the guest room. She left a note on the kitchen counter. "I need to do this alone. Trust me. I love you." And took a taxi to her mother's house. Her mother, surprised to find Angela on her doorstep so early, immediately enveloped her in a hug. "What's wrong, baby girl?" Over coffee, Angela explained everything: William's return, his escalating behavior, and his attempt to come between her and Ben. "I need your help, Mom," she concluded, "to end this once and for all." Her mother's eyes, so like her own, filled with fierce determination. "Tell me what you need." By 9:30, Angela stood backstage at the Art Institute, her heart pounding but her resolve unwavering. She had texted Ben, assuring him she was safe and asking him to come to the lecture. She knew he would be upset she'd left without security, but this was something she needed to handle her way. As expected, William had evaded the police and was seated in the second row when Angela took the stage. Ben arrived moments later, his face tight with worry, as he stood at the back of the auditorium. She caught his eye briefly, hoping he could read the love and certainty in her gaze. "Thank you all for coming," she began, her voice steady despite the tension coiling in her chest. "Today, I'd like to talk about journeys. Specifically, the journey that brought me to this moment as an artist." For the next 30 minutes, Angela delivered her planned lecture, sharing insights about her technique, her inspirations, and the themes that dominated her work. The audience was engaged, asking thoughtful questions during the discussion period. As the session wound down, Angela took a deep breath, preparing for the real reason she'd come. "Before we conclude, I'd like to share something personal," she said, her eyes scanning the audience until they locked with William's. "My journey as an artist has been intertwined with my journey as a woman, specifically finding the strength to leave behind relationships that diminished me and embracing those that helped me grow." A hush fell over the audience as they sensed the shift in tone. "5 years ago, I was abandoned at the altar by a man who claimed to love me." Angela's voice was clear, carrying to every corner of the room. "It was the most humiliating day of my life. Or so I thought at the time. Looking back, I now recognize it as the first day of my freedom." From the back of the room, Ben watched her with a mixture of concern and pride, while William shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "That man has recently reappeared in my life, attempting to convince me that my current happiness is somehow inauthentic, that the love I've found with my husband is less real than what we shared." She paused, her gaze steady on William. "But here's what I've realized. Real love doesn't abandon you when you're most vulnerable. Real love doesn't try to make you doubt yourself or your worth. Real love celebrates your growth rather than trying to keep you small. Murmurs rippled through the audience. William's face had gone pale, then flushed with anger as he realized what was happening. To the man who left me in the rain 5 years ago, Angela continued, her voice strong, I want to say thank you. Thank you for walking away. Because in doing so, you made room for the kind of love I truly deserved. And to my husband, Ben. Her eyes found his at the back of the room, filled with tears and devotion. Thank you for showing me what real love looks like. Supportive, respectful, and unwavering, even when times are difficult. William abruptly stood, his face contorted with humiliation as several nearby attendees glanced at him curiously. As he turned to leave, he found his path blocked by 2 police officers who had been waiting discreetly near the exits. Officers Angela's mother had arranged to be there, knowing William wouldn't be able to resist attending. The arrest was quick and quiet, with most of the audience unaware of the drama unfolding at the back of the auditorium, as William was escorted out for violating the restraining order. Angela concluded her lecture to enthusiastic applause, her heart lighter than it had been in weeks. As the crowd dispersed, Ben made his way to the stage, his expression a complex mixture of emotions. I'm sorry I left without telling you, Angela said before he could speak, but I needed to end this my way. By publicly humiliating him, Ben said, his voice carefully neutral, and arranging for police to be waiting. The police were my mother's idea, Angela admitted. But yes, the public response was deliberate. William thrives on manipulation and secrets. I decided to bring everything into the light. Ben was quiet for a long moment, studying her face. And last night, the doubts he planted? Angela stepped closer, taking his hands in hers. Gone, completely gone. I allowed his poison to briefly cloud what I know in my heart to be true, that you are the best thing that ever happened to me, and that our love is more real than anything I experienced with William. The tension in Ben's shoulders slowly released. I was so worried when I found your note, angry too, that you'd put yourself at risk. I know, Angela said softly. But sometimes the biggest risk is continuing to live in fear. I couldn't let William control our lives anymore. Ben pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly against his chest. You are the bravest, most incredible woman I've ever known, he whispered against her hair. And I am so lucky to be your husband. As they left the auditorium together, hand in hand, Angela felt a weight lift from her shoulders. William's obsession had nearly succeeded in creating a rift between her, and Ben had almost made her question the most precious relationship in her life. But in the end, their love had proven stronger than his manipulations. That night, as they lay tangled in each other's arms, Angela traced the contours of Ben's face with gentle fingers. I'm sorry I doubted you, even for a moment, she whispered. Ben caught her hand, pressing a kiss to her palm. We're human, Angela. Doubt is natural when someone works so hard to create it. His eyes, dark and serious in the dim light, held hers. Just promise me one thing. Anything, she said, meaning it with every fiber of her being. Next time something bothers you, about me, about us, come to me first, not with accusations, but with questions, with trust that we can work through anything together. Angela nodded, her throat tight with emotion. I promise. Ben's kiss was gentle yet passionate, reaffirming their connection in the most fundamental way. As it deepened, Angela surrendered completely to the love between them, a love that had been tested by fire and emerged stronger than ever. Chapter: The Dying, Heartfelt Truths. William's arrest for violating the restraining order should have been the end of the ordeal. He was held overnight, released on bail with an ankle monitor and ordered to remain at least 500 feet from Angela at all times. His law firm, embarrassed by the public scandal, placed him on indefinite leave. For all intents and purposes, the threat he posed had been neutralized. Yet in the days following the lecture, Angela sensed a lingering tension between her and Ben. Though he hadn't mentioned her momentary doubt again, an invisible wall had formed, subtle but undeniable. Their conversations remained polite, their physical intimacy undiminished. But something essential had shifted. One cloudy afternoon, 3 weeks after William's arrest, Angela found herself alone in the penthouse. Ben had left early for a series of meetings across town, promising to be home for dinner. The steady patter of raindrops against the windows drew her to the terrace doors, watching as the city disappeared behind sheets of water. Water from the sky. It always came back to precipitation in her life. The downpour when William left her, the storm on the day she met Ben, and now as she struggled to repair the hairline fracture in her marriage. On impulse, Angela changed into a simple sundress and took the elevator down to the lobby. The doorman raised his eyebrows as she stepped out without an umbrella or raincoat. "Mrs. Stanfield, would you like me to call for the car?" "No, thank you, James," she said with a smile. "I want to walk in the rain." "At least take an umbrella, Mom," he insisted, reaching beneath the desk. Angela shook her head. "Not today." Stepping outside, she tilted her face up to the downpour, letting it soak her completely within seconds. The sensation was shocking at first, then oddly freeing. She began to walk, with no particular destination in mind, feeling the warm summer rain plaster her dress to her skin and turn her carefully styled curls into a wild tangle. Passers-by hurried past with umbrellas and raincoats, giving her curious looks. Angela didn't care. For the first time since William's reappearance, she felt truly, completely herself. Not the abandoned bride, not the successful artist, not even Ben Stanfield's wife. Just Angela, embracing the elements that had shaped her journey. Her wandering eventually brought her to the small park where she and Ben often spent Sunday afternoons. It was deserted now, the rain driving away the usual crowd of families and joggers. Angela sat on a bench beneath a large oak tree, watching the raindrops create ripples in the small pond before her. "I thought I might find you here." Ben's voice, warm and familiar, made her turn. He stood a few feet away, as drenched as she was, his normally perfect hair plastered to his forehead, his expensive suit ruined by the downpour. "How did you know?" Angela asked, making room for him on the bench. Ben sat beside her, their soaked shoulders touching. "James called me, concerned about your sudden desire to go walking in a thunderstorm." His eyes, soft with understanding, met hers. "And I remembered what you told me once, about rain being a catalyst in your life, about how it washed away what wasn't meant to stay and revealed what was." Angela's heart constricted with love for this man who listened so carefully, who remembered the things that mattered to her. "I needed to think," she admitted. "About us," Ben said. "It wasn't a question." "Yes." Angela took his hand, their wet fingers intertwining. "Something's wrong between us, Ben. Ever since that night with William, ever since I doubted you. It's like there's this invisible barrier I don't know how to break through." Ben was quiet for a long moment, watching the rain create patterns on the pond's surface. "When you questioned me that night," he finally said, his voice barely audible above the rain, "it hurt more than I was willing to admit. Not because you asked about my past. You have every right to know about my life before you. But because, for those moments, William succeeded. He made you see me through his eyes, not yours." The raw honesty in his voice brought tears to Angela's eyes. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "No," Ben turned to face her fully, raindrops clinging to his eyelashes. I'm the one who should apologize. Instead of recognizing your doubts as a natural result of William's manipulation, I withdrew. I let my pride and hurt feelings create distance between us. We both made mistakes, Angela acknowledged. I should have come to you first, instead of letting William's poison seep into our relationship. Ben's thumb traced gentle circles on her palm. Do you know what scared me most that night? His eyes, vulnerable in a way Angela rarely saw, held hers. The possibility that William was right, that one day you might wake up and realize you'd settled for security rather than passion, that what I offered wasn't enough. The admission stunned Angela. Ben, no, that could never be true. Couldn't it? His voice was soft, reflective. We met when you were at your most vulnerable. I had everything you lacked in that moment. Security, stability, protection. It's not unreasonable to wonder if those circumstances shaped your feelings. Angela felt a surge of fierce protectiveness toward this man, this powerful, confident man who harbored such unexpected insecurities. Do you remember our second anniversary? She asked. Ben nodded, a slight smile touching his lips despite the serious conversation. The weekend at the beach house. That night on the terrace, I told you something I've never told anyone else, Angela continued, squeezing his hand. I said that loving you wasn't a choice I made, it was a recognition, like finding a piece of myself I never knew was missing. I remember, Ben murmured. That's still true, Ben. More true now than ever. Rain streamed down Angela's face, mingling with tears she couldn't hold back. When William suddenly reappeared, it threw me, not because I still had feelings for him, but because he represented unfinished business, questions I never got to ask. Ben watched her with such intensity it took her breath away. And now, have those questions been answered? Yes, Angela said without hesitation. When I stood on that stage and publicly acknowledged what William truly was, and what you truly are, it was like the final piece locking into place. I'm exactly where I'm meant to be, with exactly who I'm meant to be with. The tension that had been holding Ben's body rigid seemed to dissolve. He pulled Angela to him, uncaring of their soaked clothes or the rain still falling around them. His kiss tasted of rainwater and relief, of homecoming and newfound certainty. When they finally broke apart, both breathing heavily, Ben rested his forehead against hers. I've missed you, he whispered, even though you've been right beside me. I've missed you too, Angela confessed, her fingers tracing the beloved contours of his face. No more walls between us, Ben. No more holding back out of fear or pride. No more, he agreed, helping her to her feet. Starting now. Hand in hand, they walked through the downpour back toward their home, stopping occasionally to kiss beneath awnings or simply to look at each other with renewed wonder. By the time they reached their building, Angela's heart felt lighter than it had in weeks, as if the rain had indeed washed away what didn't belong and left only the truth in its wake. James stared in disbelief as they entered the lobby, both drenched to the bone yet laughing like children. Mr. and Mrs. Stanfield, should I call for towels? No need, James, Ben said, his eyes never leaving Angela's face. We're headed straight upstairs. The elevator ride was charged with anticipation. The moment the penthouse door closed behind them, Ben's hands were in Angela's wet hair, his mouth claiming hers with passionate urgency. She responded with equal fervor, her fingers working the buttons of his soaked shirt, desperate to feel his skin against hers. They didn't make it to the bedroom. Ben lifted Angela onto the kitchen counter, his lips never leaving hers as he pushed the wet fabric of her dress up her thighs. Their lovemaking was intense, primal, a physical affirmation of the emotional barriers they'd just demolished. Angela clung to Ben's shoulders, crying out his name as pleasure coursed through her in relentless waves. Afterward, they lay tangled, together on the living room floor, a trail of wet clothes marking their path from kitchen to sofa to carpet. Ben propped himself on one elbow, studying Angela's face with reverent attention. "You're so beautiful," he murmured, tracing the curve of her cheek with gentle fingers. "Sometimes I still can't believe you're mine." Angela turned to kiss his palm. "I am yours, completely unreservedly yours, just as you are mine." Ben's expression grew serious. "I want us to renew our vows," he said suddenly. "Not because anything is wrong or needs fixing, but because after everything we've been through, I want to reaffirm our commitment, publicly and privately." The suggestion brought fresh tears to Angela's eyes. "I'd like that," she whispered. "Very much." "In the rain," Ben added, a slow smile spreading across his face, "to reclaim it once and for all as something beautiful in our story, not something tragic." Angela laughed, wrapping her arms around his neck to pull him close. "In the rain," she agreed, "with our closest friends and family as witnesses." As Ben's lips found hers again, gentle and loving after their earlier passion, Angela felt a deep sense of rightness settle in her soul. William's brief return to her life had been a test, not just of her feelings for Ben, but of their bond as a couple. They had emerged stronger, more honest with each other, more secure in their love. Later, as they lay in bed watching the rain continue to fall outside their windows, Ben pulled Angela closer against his chest. "I've been thinking," he murmured, against her hair. "About," Angela prompted, her fingers tracing lazy patterns on his arm. "Children," Ben said softly. "A family of our own." Angela turned in his arms to look at him, her heart skipping at the vulnerability in his expression. "Really? You want children? With you? More than anything." His hand moved to rest gently on her stomach. "Watching you these past weeks, your strength, your grace under pressure, I've never been more certain of anything. You would be an extraordinary mother." Tears welled in Angela's eyes as she imagined it. A child with Ben's thoughtful eyes or her unruly curls, a family built on the foundation of their love. "I want that too," she whispered. "So much." Ben's smile was radiant as he pulled her close. "Then let's not wait. Let's start trying after we renew our vows." "Or perhaps even sooner," Angela suggested, a mischievous glint in her eye as she pressed herself against him. Ben's laugh rumbled beneath her ear, warm and full of happiness. "Mrs. Stanfield, are you suggesting we practice right now?" "Practice makes perfect," she murmured, her lips finding his in the darkness. Outside, the rain continued to fall, beating a rhythmic tattoo against the windows, no longer a reminder of heartbreak, but a benediction on their renewed commitment, their deepened love, their dreams of the future they would build together. Chapter 10. Forever. After. 5 years to the day after William Hatch had left Angela standing alone in the rain, she found herself once again in a white dress, waiting for the man she loved. But this time, everything was different. The setting wasn't a chapel, but the gardens of Ben's coastal home. The guests weren't awkwardly checking their watches, but smiling broadly. And the weather, fittingly, was rain, gentle and warm as it fell from grey skies. Angela stood beneath a white canopy adorned with hanging crystal droplets. Her ivory silk dress hugged her curves before falling in a gentle sweep to the ground. Her dark hair was piled atop her head, with tendrils framing her face. "Still sure about doing this in the rain?" Sophia asked, adjusting the bouquet of white roses in Angela's hands. Angela smiled. Absolutely. The rain is part of our story, the most important part. The music began, a haunting melody that Ben had commissioned specifically for this occasion. Angela took a deep breath and stepped out from beneath the canopy. The rain kissed her face as she walked alone, a journey she had chosen for herself, with clear eyes and full heart. Ben waited beneath an arch of flowers, his gaze never leaving hers as she approached. The emotion in his expression was palpable, a love that had been tested and emerged stronger for the trials they had weathered together. "You're breathtaking," he whispered as she reached him. The officiant began the ceremony. "We gather today not to create a marriage, but to celebrate one that has already proven its strength." Angela spoke her vows first, her voice clear over the rain. 5 years ago today, I stood in the rain feeling utterly lost. I didn't know then that the universe was simply clearing a path for something infinitely more precious. She squeezed Ben's hands. "You found me at my lowest moment and saw someone worth believing in. With you, I discovered my true self. I vow to continue growing with you, to face whatever storms may come with courage and faith. I vow to love you through sunshine and rain, for all the days of my life." Ben's eyes shone with emotion as he began his own vows. "Angela, meeting you was the most unexpected gift of my life. Before you, I had success, security, but I didn't have purpose or the kind of love that transforms every day into an adventure." His voice grew passionate. "Today, I renew my commitment to you as your partner in all things, and I make a new promise. To cherish not just who we are now, but who we are becoming, to embrace the changes that parenthood will bring, and to strive every day to be the father our child deserves." A collective gasp rose from the guests as they processed Ben's words. Angela's hand moved instinctively to her still flat stomach, a radiant smile illuminating her face. They exchanged new rings alongside their original wedding bands, physical symbols of this new chapter in their marriage. "With this ring, Angela," he said, "I honor our past, celebrate our present, and embrace our future together." "With this ring," Ben echoed, "I pledge my enduring love, my constant faith, and my everlasting commitment to you and our growing family." Their kiss sealed promises both spoken and unspoken, witnessed by their loved ones and blessed by the gentle rain. Later that evening, after the guests had departed, Ben led Angela to the covered terrace. The rain continued to fall, a soothing soundtrack to their private celebration. "Happy?" Ben asked, his hands resting protectively over their unborn child. "Beyond words," Angela replied, leaning back against him. "If I could go back in time, 5 years, and tell that heartbroken girl in the rain what was waiting for her, she'd never believe me." "What would you tell her?" Ben asked. "That the man who left her was giving her the greatest gift, freedom to find her true path. That the rain washing away what wasn't meant to be was making room for something real and lasting." She turned to face him, and that one day she'd stand in the rain again, not abandoned, but cherished and complete, with the man who saw her value when she couldn't see it herself. "And expecting our first child," Ben added softly. "The first of many, I hope," Angela said, placing her hand over his. "As many as you want," Ben promised. "A house full of beautiful, creative children with their mother's spirit and their father's loyalty." As they discussed names for their baby, Reina for a girl, meaning rain in Spanish, or Mateo for a boy, meaning gift from God, Angela felt a profound sense of completion. The circle that had begun 5 years ago in heartbreak had closed, in love and certainty. Some loves were born in sunshine, easy from the start, but Angela and Ben's love had been forged in rain, tested by storms, and emerged stronger for the journey. The rain that had once heralded an ending had ultimately brought the most beautiful beginning, a love that would last forever.